got the record button right, Jonas? Oh, okay, good.
Sorry.
All right, so for everyone who's just tuning into the recording, I'm really delighted that we're going to hear from Ewan and Sarah a little bit first about how the US summer camp went, maybe some highlights, celebrations, insights, but also maybe what was challenging or what's come up since then, what feels like, yeah, wants to happen now. And then also Uta, Jonas, and I might share as well a bit about the European one, and also hear from any of the participants, which is, I think, Valentina. But yeah, let's kick off with Ewan and Sarah. One of you like to share first?
It was beautiful. I was really grateful for that Sarah and Abby agreed to join and fly from far away to make it happen on the land, and it was quite stressful for me, the preparation and the sort of the unknown and different phases of it. But once people were there, it was beautiful. So Sarah cooked amazing meals and got people involved in preparing meals, and both really yummy and beautiful meals. And then Abby did a lot of playful facilitation and got people to play awesome games and to just very sort of easily decide what to do together. We had lots of fun stuff. People made pies, berry pies. They picked the berries from the yard and made the pies. And Sarah led people into a quick pickle workshop, and people made lots of pickles and together. And that's, for me, that's like how you make culture. You ferment things together in a group. And so we literally made cultures together, lots of cultures. And Abby and another participant showed people how to ride the horse. We have horses, but we never ride them. So Abby took care of the horses. They got their feet taken care of, and people got to ride, which is amazing. We have video of Sarah riding horse. We also have video of Sarah battling thistles
with a machete.
With a machete, yes. Sarah wielding a machete, and so we planted 3 apple trees. We carried poop juice to another culture, or to feed the apple trees. What else? People, there's a lot of I Ching readings. There's a whole like dream theater happening spontaneously after dinner, where we all played roles in bringing to reality someone's dream that happened the day before, night before. Yeah, lots of other things, but I'll let Sarah add some stuff now.
I was struck by the ease in which Ewan and Abby and I came together for this. It remained very emergent. There was an idea that the camp would run 7 days, like the EU version did. However, we decided to scope it to 3 days. So it's more of a kind of power-packed 3 days. And within that, people sometimes rotated in and out of the event. We had some kids there. We had a few dogs. There's some cats that live on the property. Yeah, as Ewan mentioned, there was a real eclectic mix of stuff we did. There was one intention that was put out that we were not able to live up to, but I think in the second annual edition of this event, we're going to make it happen. It's going to be the Micro Solidarity Summer Camp Mud Fight. I'll just start the marketing campaign now.
Mhm.
There was someone had the impulse that we could do a mud fight, which kind of evolved into mud play, to sound a bit less violent, which was part of my request to be able to do that in a way that would be joyful for me. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. For me, micro solidarity gatherings are about practicing, voicing our needs, what we need from a group to have a great experience for ourselves, and of offering back to the group what we can to help someone else have that experience. And so that's overall, I think, what happened day in and day out. I would do it all again in a heartbeat.
That's so lovely to hear. It sounds, I appreciate hearing something like that the sense of culture was created around actually just doing like quite a lot of projects and making things and learning things together, which sounds very like organic and wholesome. And I was really curious about hearing more about like when you said it worked well between the three of you as organizers, do you want to share more about that? Like what made that easy between you, and also how do you think that impacted the whole? Yeah. Also welcoming any other questions. Maybe there's some coming up in the chat. Okay, bye, James.
Yeah, I'm not sure what made it easy, but it was sort of like it just worked, and we barely even talked about what we were doing in a way. What do you think, Sarah? I mean,
Yeah, something that happened pretty naturally, but that I think worked really well, was we had kind of clear areas of care that we were holding. You know, Iwan is the land steward, and we're coming to his place, and we're trusting that he's gonna prepare it and welcome us. I was like, please let me do the food. I want to do the food. This is going to be fun for me. And Abby was like, oh, that's great, because I would love to focus on like, yeah, the space holding, and if someone has a kid, and if someone has a conflict. And so we all just kind of knew, yeah, who was holding what. And I think, just to reiterate again, like the practice of asking for what we need, I just knew that Ewan and Abby were going to be responsive. And so at some point I looked at them both and I said, you know, for this dinner, I'm going to need someone to really be there for the whole production. And I just really need someone to help. And well, it happened in kind of a funny way, because someone ended up showing up, I think, even before they got communication about that, but Ewan was on it. Ewan was going to get this person to come, and it happened through the ether before we needed to send text messages. But it would have happened from Ewan's attention to that need that I voiced. I know.
Because you were quite a smaller group, so I wonder how much you could also like just feel the group could feel itself more, like where does support need to go, and like get to know each other on a more nuanced way.
I'm curious, Ewan, what do you think about that? And yeah, did you get a sense that we were just kind of feeling it out?
I think the size of the group fluctuated through the event. I think at the peak there's like 20 something people, or 20, and then sometimes there's less than that. But it was not necessarily it was some people who just didn't know anything about micro solidarity and just happened to show up, and or people who just were vaguely interested, or who are our friends. But what I think worked really well actually was that Sarah did a lot of preparation ahead of time, and I didn't do much preparation other than sort of the physical preparation on the land and sort of communicating people about arrival. But Sarah had everything planned out, and she wrote the copy for the ticket page, and she made a bunch of documents. So everything was really easy because she put a lot of that work into it, and that would have been really hard for me to do. So I think that made it easy. Yeah, and Abby was also encouraging us and sort of holding space. We had a couple of meetings before, and yeah, I was like, at some point I was worried that nobody's buying tickets. I was ready to sort of like let go, and Abby and Sarah were like, no, we're gonna come no matter what, and it's gonna happen. So that made it easy, and felt good. Yeah. It was also helpful that Sarah had come to the land, back in January, and she brought her friends and did an awesome birthday weekend and fed us. So she knew what it would look like. And we had seen how amazing her food was and her organizational skills were. So it was easy to know that it's gonna go well that way.
Yeah, I taking in like the sort of role allocation was both like easy because you all found what you're enthusiastic about and naturally felt good at, and also just fitted well together as a sort of like super trio kind of thing. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it also helped that we had a sense of each other from Denver. So we met in Denver. We met each other in Denver. So I had a sense of how Abby would be awesome in the way she would facilitate space. And Abby probably maybe felt like she could do stuff with both of us somehow. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions coming from anyone else in this space? I wonder.
I mean, the other thing I would mention, just that was like sort of a revelation for me, is that something about like treating people as if they're kids, like basically treating people as if they still had the curiosity and creativity and spontaneity and the playfulness that they had when they were kids. And so we all kind of played with each other. I think Abby brought that energy of like just paying attention, like deep attention to what was happening, and like we can be playful. We don't have to sort of, for me, it's like don't have to be tedious like adults are sometimes. We can be playful. Like adults can be tedious to me. They kind of are boring sometimes,
Having met Abby once for a week, I can really imagine that she holds such a beautiful perspective on seeing the inner child, and also seeing the fullness of children as well, not just that they're part human, but really the welcoming fullness. So that's meaningful to hear. Yeah.
I don't know about challenge. I think the biggest challenges were like I don't know how to promote things. I feel sort of awkward promoting things. So just like not knowing if people are going to come or if they're going to buy tickets to come, or that's for me that was the biggest challenge. How about you, Sarah?
The challenge I've been reflecting on is this tension between people are paying and tickets and my sense of that wanting to give them a really hosted experience, and then balancing that with making space for participation for the group work. And I think it's really what I've identified in that is a very, I think from my perspective at this point, I hold a lot of very like, I don't know, like modern American individualist westernized frames of thought around that I actually need to unlearn to occupy that space in a more graceful way of inviting people joyfully into like, yeah, we're going to make food together. That's the experience, not labor that we're asking you to give to us for the sake of whatever. So figuring out how to do that in the moment was something I didn't quite catch this event. I was wanting to show up in the hosting role and provide and take all of it on, myself. Of course, I got a lot of help and people. It's just about like, I can definitely see growth for myself in figuring out how to do that in a more natural way, in a more graceful, joyful way that gets people to experience the joy of the work. So that's what I'm thinking about a lot.
Thanks, Sarah. It feels like drawing people into the passion of it and the love of it, rather than it becoming a should or a have to, or this is your job, you have to do it. And I think this topic of like how much structured hosting to bring and how much to just let things happen was a big theme for ours as well. Would you say, Jonas and Uta? Yeah, yeah. Really, like, where do you put the like how much structure and how little structure, and it makes a difference to the kind of event. Yeah. Just with awareness of time, I could like imagine we could talk so much longer about all this, and yet I think we're going to do interviews. I know that Rich wants to interview like the both camps, or I think that's something of that idea, and go deeper into what the learnings were. So maybe we can just gather a bit more out of that in those interviews. But yeah, are there any, before we shift over to talking about the European one, is there anything else that either of you want to round off with for sharing today? Any impulses or?
Yeah, I wonder. I would just say that there's more happening now still. There's definitely, the event we came together and a thing happened, and Ewan has shared with me some stories that happened afterwards of how that's echoing out in a wider way. And I know that that's going to be true for my life. I connected with Dan from the EU Kitchen in my early morning today, and I had a great conversation. And so, yeah, just to kind of put a pin on it, it's definitely, we might have to travel, we might have to spend money to get to these kinds of gatherings, and I think it's so worth it. Whatever you put into it. The way that Dan kind of worded it is like, there's going to be a high concentration of people who are, wanting to build community and connection. And so I would say for anyone who's maybe on the fence about these things, like that's the minimum that you're going to get. And that's a good minimum. Like show up and meet people, and you're going to get a lot out of it.
Thanks, Sarah.
I guess I would say like we're hosting an eat, play, work weekend next weekend. So if you happen to be in Washington, come and eat, play, and work with us.
Nice. I'm happy to hear there's still more things popping up. Yeah, the ripple effects like this, I think, not always visible, but it's really nice to hear what does happen for people afterwards. So yeah, it's really nice to keep hearing people's integrations. So if you're listening to this and you have integrations, do let us know via Discord or elsewhere. Yeah, sounds like you had a lot of fun. And I wonder, yeah, so Jonas and Uta, would you like to share highlights and insights, celebrations, and challenges from our summer camp? Maybe also to give a sense of like the structure, like because we have maybe it's like different sort of context and structure than the US one. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I can just start us off, Uta, and then you can fill in what I missed or your perspective on it. So the kind of structure of it was 6 days long. The first day was just arrival, and people just got a chance to settle in, and we did a big opening structure in the evening. And then it was open space every day, and we kind of facilitated it. And then, yeah, we invited people to not come if they don't want to, but it was clear that this was going to be the central kind of organizing mechanism. And over the weekend, so over the last 3 days, we were up to 55 people. So it was kind of necessary also to have a coordination mechanism of that sort. And yeah, during the week we were 38, something like that, 38, yeah. And for me personally, it was a great learning experience. I never hosted a group that big before, and I was really grateful that I got to do it with you, Jocelyn, and to kind of with Rich's support and a lot of people around that I know and trust. Was a really cool playground to get to facilitate. And I think that was also one of the main takeaways for me or one of the ways lenses have shifted for me. If I were to design this again, this question of how can we support people to kind kind of grow and learn as facilitators and leaders during the event would be a lot more present. And I think one of the great successes of this event was that people did take ownership and they did show up. And from day 3 or 4 onwards, it really felt like the group was holding itself, and there wasn't a lot of kind of tweaking and massaging the field necessary. People just offered a lot of stuff on the open space and had a good time. There were some tensions around this kind of how much structure is good. There was like a feeling of, oh, you kind of need to be there for the open space for some people, not majority, I would say, but some people experienced this like feeling of obligation, and we're like, this is too much structure, which is an interesting thing because it's open space and you don't need to do anything. But I can understand that if everybody goes there in the morning, it can feel like you're gonna miss out if you not come. So this is something that I'm kind of taking with me as a reflection of like, how do you do that? And one of the things we landed on in the short retro we did was just model walking out of the room because I want to take a nap now or something. And yeah, that's kind of the things I'm now curious to explore in the next iteration or a different event somewhere. Like how to really, like, not similar to what you said, Sarah, not try and provide an experience for people, but really play myself, like and try and learn and be really authentic in that, and that way hopefully open up space for others. Yeah, that's what comes to mind. I could ramble on for probably 40 more minutes, but maybe Jocelyn, Uta, you want to add anything?
Uta, you want to go first?
Yeah, shall I go next?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was awesome. It was absolutely, I mean, the best thing ever for me personally. And I can only, say so much about how it landed in my body, but it was just, having Jonas and Jocelyn there as the facilitators. And I was like doing everything in the background and helping sort of with the contact with the venue and the logistics, and dealing with Dan, sort of with the food, helping him to do all the shopping at the beginning, and then it all turned into a self-running machine, Dan the machine, basically, and everybody helping. And for me, it was I was still a little sort of nervous about it the first 2 days, and then the third day, someone else took over. Like, someone from the team took over my logistics part, and I was able to have a nap, and I got a wonderful neck massage from Jonas, and things just started to just slow down in my body, and I felt so in the field. It was like, and there was no going back after that. I was just completely at ease. Nothing was stressful. Everything was provided. Everything was held by the group. And I just felt like it was my best ever healing experience in community, and very different from last year in Drongen, where I was quite stressed with my move and everything. And this year, this was my only focus, and I knew I could be fully there, and it was really, really, really good. So that's my body talking. And I mean, yeah, I thought, there were things that I hadn't expected, which was there's, I don't know if I can mention it here, but part of the group was from the Teapot community, and part of the group was more micro solidarity community. And it turned out that those were separate groups almost, and had separate dynamics and so on. So it was, this was something that we just saw and dealt with in the moment, I think. Not a big issue, but just something that I hadn't expected. And apart from that, I would say that 38 people felt really good. 55 people felt like a bit stressful. But then again, there was this peak moment on Friday night when we had the opening circle after the rain outside in the courtyard, and we were all standing in the big circle. And in 30 minutes, we integrated all of the newcomers into their crews, and off they went and were in it. So, it didn't, over the next 2 days, it showed that it wasn't like a full integration, but at that moment, it just felt so beautiful. and it was a really good moment where something really clicked and worked, and because of what we had prepared the days before. So yeah, Jocelyn, do you want to add something?
Yeah, you've both covered some really great points, and I think I want to celebrate. There's something similar to what Ewan and Sarah mentioned. Is there's something about how easy it felt to be a team of 4 holding it, and I think the ease that we felt with each other and the amount we could help each other self-regulate within our own crew really helped us to be present with all the dynamics going on in the larger group. Yeah, it was just it felt very easeful to say, oh guys, I need to tap out for today. Like there was a day where I felt really tired because I hadn't slept well from camping. And I was like, at the very beginning, and I just said, I need to like tap out a bit today. And I could trust that we would all take turns in supporting each other in that as well. And it felt very supportive. And I think it just helps that I know Uta, Jonas, and Rich already in different ways, from different contexts. I know a bit like what supports each of them and what they each find challenging. I've worked together with Jonas and other projects, so that's even more like easeful to kind of know each other's ways and to take incrementally larger risks in bigger projects together. And so that really showed, I think, yeah, just to relax into knowing each other before taking on a big thing like this was useful. I think a challenge was there was something about, I think we overestimated people's experience with crewing and how to like use a crew to feel supported. And I think crewing and the network in general is, in the theory even of microsolidarity, it makes sense. And I still have this question about how do we do crewing in a way that really meets people's needs the most. So we put everyone into a crew, and realized afterwards some people were like, oh, I kind of feel like I already got my crew. This feels a bit like unnecessary for me, and I'd rather not be here. Or some people just didn't want to have it. So it might have been interesting to make it more of a voluntary thing. And yet sometimes people don't recognize the value of it until they actually put in one, and then they're like, oh, this is great. So who knows really? But I think what would have been definitely better is to have onboarded people a bit more and given a bit more structure for how people can use their crew time. Yeah. And maybe also to plan a specific moment in the day for crews to happen, because everyone wanted to do different things, and like there were always different things happening at the same time, number of open space things, or a cooking shift, or a cleaning shift, or meal time. And I think it might have been difficult for people to actually find a time to crew together each day. And the crews, that's the thing, there were some reflections we had from people saying, I wish there was more of a sense of a project to do with my crew or with the whole group. And maybe like the project was more about like, okay, let's show up and learn from each other or just hang out. But it wasn't really a venue either where we could do so much to support like a building project or a creation project. And the kitchen, I think, was like they're feeding 55 people. It was more of a kind of a mission and needed to be quite structured. So there wasn't really space to have like a nice cooking project or something like that. I think the closest that people came to it was that we created like kitchen crews. So there was like one crew did 2 dinner cooking shifts, another crew did the other 2. One crew did all the breakfast cleanup, another crew did all the lunch cleanup. So people were in crews to do the tasks together. So they learned to iterate on like what needs to happen, how can we do this more effectively next time throughout the week, which was great because it meant that Jonas, Uta, Rich, and I didn't have to have our eyes on trying to improve every element of the system. We could like, that's what I really learned, was like, how can I outsource as much of this, of the learning and the doing as possible, that we don't have to be micromanaging everything, which is a good practice. And still, it was interesting to notice myself. I think I let go of putting lots of structure. I would have put more structure, but then I put less, and I was like, okay, there's very minimal structure. And still, it felt sometimes like too much structure. So I'm learning more and more how to really get to the sweet spot of like what's just enough container that people feel they can fill it, and that they know still how to orient and like find enough emotional support and have all their practical needs met. Like when they first arrive, that they know where they can shower, shit, eat, and sleep, you know, and like how they are, what's going to be asked of them in terms of contributing to the community life, needing, like, being able to happen in terms of eating and cleaning. So yeah. I'm going to pause here. There's so much more I could share, but those are a few little snippets. Yeah. Overall, it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. I was super energized at the end. Yuan, how much micro-solidarity specific content or stuff did you do? I guess some of the workshops, a bunch of them were focused on topics related to it, and some were more like less directly, but still in the topic of like well-being or skills for collaboration. Rich did a couple of micro-solidarity 101 things for people who are newer to micro-solidarity. There was, I did an open discussion about like belonging now what, which was very strongly attended, and a lot of people wanted to know, like, what do we do with belonging now we're here? So maybe it also connects with like, we want more of a project while we're here together. What can we do together? But besides that, I suppose just the fact that we had open space going and we had crewing, and we did a retro on Friday all together before the new people arrived, and some interesting dynamics surfaced, which was really good. Yeah.
And also, just to add quickly, a bunch of the offerings that participants put up on the open space were also kind of relating to micro-solidarity. Like one Will put up a session, micro-solidarity in music and sound. Valentina, you were also co-creating that, is that right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there were like a few interesting, taking micro-solidarity and applying it to something type sessions.
Valentina, do you want to speak to anything from your experience, either riffing off anything we've said or something completely different, how you experienced it? What did you come away with?
Yeah, sure. I mean, let me think. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. I haven't like prepared like a, like a coherent narrative about it, because I think I'm still processing, but definitely I think when people arrived on the weekend, it was a bit disruptive for me, which is also why I actually asked Rich at the end, like, why didn't we do it the other way around? Because we could have started right with more people, and then some people could have left, and I think that potentially could be a little bit less disruptive, because like once you have all these days, you are now get used to a certain thing, to see a certain amount of faces, and then all of a sudden it changes and it's almost the end, and you're just like, oh, and then subtle stuff is happening and things, so yes, for me, I don't know, maybe as an introvert, I think that was a bit of a challenge. I definitely felt a little bit scattered at the end, and I also noticed I put less energy into getting to know the people that came after, and they were also, I mean, some people were actually like positively disruptive, right, kind of almost on purpose. Like, there were a lot of like moments of trigger where I actually like, really felt like, what is going on? But I was very, very confused. With certain specific individuals. But anyway, in terms of the cruise, I also felt, I mean, we had like, also the problem is that like after Friday, some people, like one person left that was part of the crew. So all of a sudden we were 2 people, and then somebody was supposed to join, but then it didn't. And so it was also a little bit confusing. So I also wonder if there could be a way to maybe also make the cruise a little bit more significant in terms of like who is part of the crew, like maybe a bit more planned, or maybe almost like a matchmaking situation where, when you maybe can choose to be in a certain group. Like my crew was like happened to be amazing. The problem is that Marine had to leave, but actually it was awesome. Like I really loved Marine and Mirin. It's funny because almost the same name. It was just the best crew. So we had a lot of fun, and they were so supportive. I was going through some like emotional stuff, and they were great. what else? Yeah, the project thing also could have been interesting to do something with them. Yeah, sort of like having a bit more structure. I don't know. I'm not against structure. I also like, you know, when you were saying this thing about the open space, you know, the fact that people maybe feel the pressure to be there. I mean, to be honest, like my feeling is that moment is such a short moment. It's just like, you know, half an hour. It's a small meeting. So in a sense, like, you know, why not, in a sense, almost like pressure people to come to that one thing, and then people can leave, right? Like you can do whatever you want the rest of the day, but like it provides a little bit of a place where people can see each other's faces and sort of like, oh, this is the group. So I think it would have been strange for me if like 30% of the people didn't show up. So yes, so I don't know, you know, of course I don't think enforcing anything is good, but like to just say, you know, this is a nice idea because it makes the group feel more cohesive. Yeah, I don't know what else.
Yeah. That's really super rich to hear back from you. I find it really, really grateful hearing your perspective also as a participant, and none of it is surprising to hear. Yeah. I've also heard others say about like, what about having everyone arrive at the beginning and people leave afterwards, which I worry like, oh, what if people feel like a loss, like a heartache of loss? But then again, it does definitely support that sense of not being overwhelmed by a new group. Yeah, there's definitely lots to consider there. Yeah. I look forward to talking more about this again, as I said, like in an interview or on future calls, because it might still be that, you know, in the next month that still more things come through, and we'll certainly be doing these again. So yeah, there'll be many opportunities to reflect again on what supports a group, what supports individuals, and what makes it a meaningful experience for everyone. Yeah. Thank you all. Would like to shift gears in a moment towards the retro, but I first want to invite you all to just take a stretch and maybe shake it out. I think I need to just stand up and move around a little bit before we shift. Okay. Brilliant. And it might be that some of the thoughts that came up just now for you fit in with the retro as well. So see how that goes. I'm curious. Okay, so we've got half an hour, and it'd be nice to have 5 minutes to just check out. So it's going to be a brief retro, but let's see how we go. So we've prepared a retro board. Maybe Jonas will put this in the chat in a moment, together with the areas of reflection. So I looked at there's a Figma board that Rich wrote up, I think maybe like at least half a year ago, which is sort of an overview of the different sort of areas of the network, and they're roughly, yes, I wrote them out in a list, which I think is in the chat. Yeah. I'll also share the Figma board that I'm talking about, because maybe you remember it. It's sort of like a collective community Kanban board, which shows like what are kind of the different areas of the network and what are our like next steps on for developing each one, and where are we at with that. I think it hasn't been updated in a little while, but there it is. Anyway, so I thought that maybe that's a useful little framework to look at, you know, to reflect upon our network with, like, what is our overall coordination? How are we doing with overall coordination of the network? We had this idea of a network support crew a few months ago, and that got sort of absorbed into into these network calls. We also have the online community, which is the Discord channel, a directory of people and projects they're doing, and we have a somewhat of a membership system of people register or subscribe on Open Collective. So how's that going? Or do they just join Discord and join the conversation after being part of an event? There have been events, summer camps, and these monthly calls. There's the theory, there's the research. You know, Rich has written up these pages, and there's also a theory, like a research crew, I believe. Thought it would have been interesting having, oh, Uta, you're part of that, aren't you? We have been in the past? No? Okay.
Not anymore.
Okay. There's also stories and case studies, like we've put quite a few interviews on YouTube, and there's a few podcasts, mostly Richard's interviews. There's the money aspect of our network, the Open Collective. We have a fiscally hosted by Open Collective and have a very transparent money system there. And spaces, yeah, like what kind of local hubs? There are a few, like Blivand is a community in Stockholm practicing market solidarity. And just leaning into the potential of residential communities and anything else that you might think of that relates to your experience of the network. Okay, thanks Bernard for being here. See you soon. So I invite you all to go over to the Figma board, and the idea is we're going to just write out, you can write out on any of the 3 columns, rose, bud, or thorn, your reflections on any of those areas. The rose means things that we are celebrating, and bud is thorn. Bud are like untapped potential, areas of opportunity waiting to blossom in our network, and thorns are challenges and issues we're facing. So let's take 5 minutes, and you can populate any of those columns as you like. You'll see you can also put a thumbs up on ones that resonate with you. I think you can put one like basically on each card. But yeah, we'll have 5 minutes to write, and then 3 minutes or so just to read what's been written, and then we'll just reflect together on like what kind of themes coming up together. Okay, I'll let you know when 5 minutes is up. Thanks, Alex. See you soon. And if you're watching this, yeah?
I'm not sure where are we putting comments, and also I think I'm in view only for some reason. I'm not sure how to.
It's on the retro board, not on the Figma.
Retro board. Yeah.
On where?
There's a link in the message I sent, the long one. It has a link to Easy Retro.
Yeah, so I clicked on that, but it's so big. What area of the thing are we putting stuff on?
No. I think you're on Figma if it's so big.
Oh, on Figma. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Let me put in the chat again.
Easy Retro instead of Figma. Okay, sorry. Yeah, got it.
Cool. I'm going to pause the recording while we do our journaling, and I'll put it on. Okay, let me share my screen to share the retro.
Doesn't you muted yourself?
How about now? You hear me? Okay. My Zoom does that all the time. I don't understand why. Anyway, can you see the retro board on my screen? Cool, great. I was just saying, if you're watching the recording and would also like to add some notes to this, you're also very welcome. I'll add the link to it with the podcast or under the YouTube video, so you can also contribute. But yeah, what we've got here is a really nice start. I think there's quite a few themes coming up that I see. And I wonder, would anyone like to also comment on what are you noticing as some themes of like successes or roses, buds, and thorns along the way? Feel free to unmute yourself and share.
I have a sense there's a theme of like surfacing, making transparent, making visible. On the one hand, needs of people, and on the other hand, stuff that is already happening, like this kind of matchmaking and making it easier for people to orient in what's going on and how to join where and dock into initiatives. Someone even mentioned in like investing in projects, like how to know what's going on so we can support projects that we find cool. It's like it feels like there's a lot of potential there for stuff to gel if there were enough transparency and overview. So that's important.
Yeah, I see that too. Yeah, both in terms of funding, but also in terms of where's the more potential for crewing, where's the more potential for hearing what we're up to. Yeah. Anything else? What I'm noticing is since the last retro, there's a lot more sense of it working, like successes in people like interacting with one another. I see also there's some untapped potential and challenges of like Discord still feeling a bit clunky sometimes or chaotic, but also that there's more sense of, for example, seeing updates from people on doing similar projects. And yeah, the habits crew came up a couple of times, like the energy around, oh, we're actually doing something together in between the network calls. Yeah, and discussions on Discord being engaging. Yeah.
So who wants to talk about money? Because I didn't write anything about money, but somebody else did. So that sounds edgy and interesting.
Definitely. Yeah, I enjoyed actually seeing that come up a few times in this retro around money. Like, how can we fund things, and like, how can we support? Like, I think what you guys said about what if people don't join or don't sign up for the summer camp. Like, fortunately, you didn't have too many overhead costs, but we had quite some overhead costs in the European one for booking out this big venue. And it's like we were making at one point, I think 2 or 3 weeks before, we were at a $3,000 loss, and we were like, well, we're just gonna have to take it and go with what we've got. And fortunately, we then made that up with more people at the last moment signing up, but it was tense, a bit of a stressful moment, and it wouldn't have felt so good. How could we support within the network also other projects like that have sort of overhead costs to feel that they can take the risk, and like not every project's going to have a profit, not every experiment's going to have a profit, but yeah, to make space for that. And also I saw like something around would like to know which projects need funding, and maybe be able to like see who needs funding and who has it like funds that they want to give. Yeah. Another one I also enjoyed seeing was around diversity from people in the global south and people of color and underrepresented groups. And I've noticed that also too. And I think there's something about the timing of this call that doesn't support that very well. Like I really like appreciate Adil, you've been I think the last 3 calls here, and it's very late in the night for you in India, in Bangalore. And it doesn't surprise me that there are not more people on the call from Asia, from the Far East, from Australia, New Zealand, because it just doesn't work out. So and that's a pity. I wonder what could be done, like maybe different alternating call times, or maybe having 2 calls, one from all the Asia Pacific. I don't know. Yeah. I'm curious about that. Anything else? Let's take a couple more minutes.
I really like Jonas starting the habits crew. I feel like that's like a really awesome.
The habits crew?
Yeah, it's a really awesome way to actually have meaningful, ongoing connections with people around daily life stuff, and that feels really helpful to me. And it's a way to get to know people deeper. So I think that's a perfect example of how to do stuff with other people that you can do remotely, and it's get involved as much or as little as, or as you want to, or like there's a minimum level of involvement, but it's doable, and it's like something that helps me in my daily life.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, thanks.
Go Jonas. So good. I have to check that out. Maybe one more thing, which I'm mentioning also now because it came up in the summer camp in the EU one as well. Like, what about creating more impactful and meaningful projects? I see that here as well, linking belonging and psychological safety practices to incubating impactful and meaningful projects. Like, what do we do with this sense of belonging? Maybe it links to crewing, and maybe there's something in there about the habits thing being quite successful. Like, we just need there's something in there that, okay, we want to find the ways that we can make impacts together. Yeah. How do we do that more? Yeah.
Yeah, something that's coming up for me now is also around documentation. It comes back to this transparency thing. Like I've been thinking about taking what I've learned from kind of calling and setting up a structure for the habits crew, and putting that into kind of just a handout. So people, if they want to do a crew around habits, they can start with that. Similarly, like I don't know, Justin, you and I, we've been talking a lot about emergent strategy and like how to support people to find their heartbreak in the world and take action on that where they are locally, and kind of making something that's accessible for people that want to work around the topic. And I feel like there's lots of experimentation going on in different corners of the network. Maybe there's something that can be done to make it easier for people to document what they're doing and share it. And yeah, maybe if that becomes part of the culture even more, then I feel like that would be a valuable thing.
Yeah. Nice. I'm gonna because we're at 5 to the hour, I'm going to just stop screen sharing for here. And yeah, I think that's been really valuable. I don't necessarily have a sense of like a clear, like this is what we do next, but there's been lots of themes that come up. But maybe there is something in the room about what do we do next. Maybe it's just me. Perhaps that's an idea. I would kind of like to invite a checkout round with like seeing all of this what's stewed up. Is there something that pops up to you as like, oh, I think we could do this, or I would like to do this? Any sense of like what might be something to experiment with next? It doesn't have to be something that you necessarily want to take on, but that would be more powerful for sure. I could start with it, and if nothing comes to you, you can just do a checkout with like how it was to see the retro or how it was to follow the call today and be present. But I'll start by sharing that I would like to actually support there being 2 network calls a month, that there would be one that's actually in the European morning that could capture more support for people who want to grow this in Asia Pacific. And maybe could write something on the Discord channel to invite that. And I'm also curious to keep like exploring around crewing processes and how to help crews move from belonging into impactful, meaningful, specific projects or actions. And it feels like something I'm working on with Jonas, but if anyone else wants to join in a conversation around that, let me know. Maybe we can have a conversation about it. Yeah. I will pass it on to Sarah. You can pass if you're not ready.
Thanks. Yeah, I've just seen Ewan's comment in the chat. It says, interested in chatting to see some ongoing way about how to organize community dinners or supper clubs. I'm thinking a lot about this. I just chatted with Dan, and we are potentially gonna start a crew to think about how can we gather and organize and communicate wisdom about building community through food and hosting events. So that's on my horizon. I'm thrilled to think about that. We also have a need in the network to have someone step up to be virtual practice program co-host for this will happen in September. So I think we have 3 out of 4 of those spots filled. And we need someone, so I'll just plug that as my checkout strategically. I'll pass to
Thanks,
Pascal.
Sarah. Yeah. Also, it looks like we'll probably go about 5 minutes over. Has anyone got to head off earlier because they could share first?
Could go now.
Okay, cool.
I'll pass to Pascal.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, from what comes up with me and what is that I think I saw it somewhere also on the retro, is this belonging and becoming, and what comes up from me from today's session, but also from the retro, is that I think that belonging is very strong, is good, and so I think that it's time to start exploring what we can become. And we also have micro solidarity to guide us in what is coming. I don't know what is coming, but something is becoming. So I look forward to that. And thank you all for the wonderful session. And I'll pass it on to Uta.
Yes, hello. I feel called, I don't know in which way, but the crewing issue seems to be really salient at the moment, something that people are like, that step in between, you know, where we always kind of, we have the bigger picture and we have communities that are already organized and that are doing crewing, but what's up with everybody else? Where are our crews? And some people have them, some people don't have them, but there's a question mark. And I want to follow that lead.
Thank you, Uta.
And I'll pass it on to Valentina.
Hello. Yes, I mean, I am very new, so yes, I don't know. I feel like my view of what is happening is a bit limited in terms of the past. So it's more to me about future possibilities. And yeah, I guess I still don't know exactly what is possible, right? Like I am getting glimpses of possibilities, but I'm not entirely sure. And yeah, so I guess for me in this transition phase, it's like maybe I need a little bit of support to find my place in it and how to support my projects. And I feel like, yeah, and it's a little bit, and of course, first I need to like figure out myself what I need and then ask for the right support, I think. And so, but then I also need to know who to talk to if I need to do something more specific, something like that. And also the money stuff, like I'm very interested in that. So maybe some research around it would be something that I would be interested in doing with other people. Yeah.
Thanks, Valentina. Also, I see Adil had to drop off, but he says he would be interested in talking about what sharing does when it emerges out of scarcity and not abundance. I see it a lot in the support group I am a co-initiator of, and also in my country in general. Yeah. Who's still to go? Iwan and Jonas.
Good to go. I just had a thought around crewing what Uta said. Really resonated, and like a very specific next step I see is to just create a forum channel on the Discord to ask people, what are your challenges in finding a crew? Please drop your topics here. Because I feel like if you are set up in a certain way, or if you have access to a certain way of looking at things, then it's really easy. But I can also imagine it not being so easy, and I just don't know what the challenges are. So yeah, I don't know if that's the accessible way of getting to those answers, or if people experience the same challenges in answering that question. But yeah, it's something. And then lots more on the horizon with the practice program and this coaching group that we're working on. And yeah, I feel really passionate about bridging that gap that you also mentioned, Pascal, like and Jocelyn kind of surfaced at the camp, this belonging, and now what do we do with it? What do we become? Yeah, there's lots brewing there. Pass it on to Iwan.
Yeah, I'm excited about building community through food. I think that's to be a very practical way and localized way, but I think we could share insights remotely about like just practical things, how to get people to show up, recipes, or things like how to run the dinner, just share practical things. where to do it. I have a space where I can do it, where there's people show up and it can help build community and Bridge Space Commons, or at the farm. But I think just like dinner with friends, I don't know. I think there's a lot to explore there, and I'm excited to try that as a project, as we check in with each other on how to do that, because everything starts with food, I think. So, and it's interesting around, I think that'd be interesting around scarcity as well, because like that's like the basic stuff. Are we scarce? Is food scarce? Can we manifest abundance with food, stuff that gets thrown away otherwise, or that it doesn't cost that much, and so on.
Thank you, Yuan. Yeah, thanks everyone. Exciting. Yeah, I hear a little bit of like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and definitely some clear themes around belonging and becoming, and yeah, commensality, eating, like coming together over food. Yeah, really rich session. And yeah, I'm going to continue the flow of doing a combination over the following months of like Troika and case clinics, and also like skill shares, so we can keep learning about like what each other are up to and providing each other support on these calls. But yeah, always open to other suggestions along the way. You don't have to wait till the next retro if you want to request something. I saw one thing about how can we be supported to step up and help co-shape the network. So I want to say actively, like, please do send me a message on Discord, or just get in touch or share on the network call sometime. If you have a wish for doing something differently with these times, I'm always open to experimenting. Yeah, and as Sarah said, just a few notifications. We're looking at doing a practice program starting on the last week of September, so 26th September. We're still waiting for the proper thumbs up from Rich also in terms of dates and things, but that's the idea. And I think still looking for one other person who would like to co-host it with us. And was there anything else? Anything else in terms of updates? I don't think so. No, just the next call will be on the first Thursday of September, which will be what, 7th September. There's a small chance that I might not be able to do it because I'm going to be in Findhorn at the Eco Community Village in Scotland. I don't know what the program is there, in which case I will maybe see if someone else wants to host it. Looking your way. If you'd be keen, send me a little message. And yeah, stories, happy to share afterwards. But yeah, I will post a message on Discord about that as soon as I know. Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone. Wishing you a lovely rest of the day or evening, and looking forward to seeing you soon again. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.